Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. On this video I will be talking about the new HBO series The Undoing. So this is episode 1 and it's a limited series, so as far as I know this is going to be a one-off story, and the episode is called The Undoing. So here we go, new HBO series. And it stars Nicole Kidman, who's also a producer on the show, and also Hugh Grant, who's the other main lead. A few other familiar faces in the cast as well. For example, you had the actress from The West Wing who played Donna, she's in there. One or two other familiar faces, but obviously Kidman and Grant, the two leads. And it's from David E. Kelly, who worked with Kidman on Big Little Lies, which was a pretty big hit for the both of them. He's like the main writer of this series, and the director is Suzanne Barr. Actually, I think she's directed all the episodes. Who's a Danish director. I've seen a couple of her films. She did a film called After the Wedding, which was a Danish film. And I've seen one of her other films. I think I can't remember which one it was now. But anyway, she's a good director. So I think a good choice to direct this. But I think certainly from the first episode, it kind of feels like it's very much a David E. Kelly show, if you see what I mean, rather than the Suzanne Bard style show. Not that I'm expecting the direction in it to be of a certain standard, a decent standard, if she's directing all episodes. And I'm certainly from the first episode, I think there is some eye-catching stuff in there, so you would expect maybe there to be good direction throughout. But I think just getting a sense for the dialogue and the characters and the sort of show which this first episode sets up, I think it feels very much like David E. Kelly and his fingerprints all over it, if you see what I mean. And I think what's fair to say about this first episode is that if you like Big Little Lies, I think there's a decent chance you'll like this. It's sort of in that sort of area, that sort of ilk, if you like. It does that similar thing of balancing like quite a funny show, quite a satirical drama where it's looking at like the sort of shallow lives of these like middle class, almost arty types in a way, but really sending them up in a very entertaining sort of way. But then you do get a mystery as well at the heart of it. There's a murder, let's say, which is revealed by the end of the episode, or at least a death. So a lot of this first episode is set up, and the big event sort of happens at the end. So I enjoyed it a fair bit. I thought it was a solid episode. I personally got a kick out a lot of like the characters in interactions and the kind of glamour of it, but again how it was kind of like a piss take almost of like, you know, middle classes and their hysteria and a certain like group of characters. There was some fun dialogue. Nicole Kidman is obviously a very good lead for the series. I think Hugh Grant is very well cast. I should just set up the plot actually. The plot is basically that Nicole Kidman plays Grace. She's married to the Hugh Grant character Jonathan. He's like a surgeon, or ornithologist to be precise. And Kidman's Grace is like a therapist, and we see her in a couple of different sessions with her clients, and again that's like a window into the kind of just how ghastly and kind of melodramatic, certain people can be who have therapy. But she is drawn into like the life of this character, this this new mother in the neighborhood who has like a young family, and her son goes to the same school as Grace's son, and again this is set in a very like middle class, quite rich sort of area of New York, and the school itself is very like expensive to get into, like the tuition and stuff, and so eyebrows are kind of raised at one point because the mother herself, they're from like a poorer sort of background, so questions are raised about how they could afford to send their son their son to the school. So again, it's sort of like poking at themes to do with class and kind of wealth and that sort of thing, the difference in the classes and stuff like that. So Kidman kind of has an interest in this new mother, this new character in the neighborhood. I think it's almost in a way the sense that she gets so fed up of listening to like the mundanity and the melodrama of her clients and stuff, and at times she seems like an unwilling participant with the other housewives, and feels a bit like an outsider in that sense. So she, Eleanor is the name of the other mother. She kind of does take an interest in her and does her best to like try and befriend her. At the same time, there's a weird sort of vibe between her and Eleanor, because Eleanor basically flirts with Grace in this episode, and there's a moment where they do share a kiss, which is more from Eleanor to Grace, but Grace, doesn't reject it as such. So maybe that's going to be a thing where Grace maybe isn't completely happy with her marriage. But yeah, there's some couple of bizarre scenes where Eleanor is flirting with Grace, and a scene where, because what happens is there's a scene where you first see Eleanor, and she goes to like dinner with them with a group of like the housewives, and it's this sort of kind of like satirical scene again where they're kind of just being quite sort of outlandish, and a lot of like gossiping and stuff like that, and kind of joking around. But then Eleanor randomly starts breastfeeding her baby in front of them, and it's obviously this odd sort of scene, but it kind of captures the mood of the show, because they all start like staring at her, and they're all kind of outraged, and they obviously don't really say anything to her face, but Grace has a different reaction. She just sort of smiles to her and is a bit more accepting. But it again becomes a point later where Grace says, well, she just felt awkward because Hugh were all going on about, like rich things and art and stuff, and you would, yeah, she just felt sort of isolated. She's new here and stuff, so it's almost like she's trying to excuse it a bit, but obviously, um, it sets this kind of tone, that scene, because then later on, they're in a locker room, like, together. I'm not quite sure where they're meant to be, actually. Maybe it's just like a gym or something, but Eleanor approaches Grace there, and she's actually standing there naked and sort of talking to her. And obviously, they're in a locker room, they're both women, so it's not that unusual but it's just the fact that she's standing there naked in front of Grace, and they're obviously having this conversation, and again there's definitely a vibe of there being flirtation, particularly from Eleanor. um, so it's not like she stands there and she's at least got something on. She is actually naked and sort of flirting with her, or it appears to be. Um, so that's the setup, and there's then this incident at the end where Eleanor, she ends up dead. She's killed, and the way the episode opens is that we see her son, like, walking into a studio, because she has an art studio, and he walks in, and it sort of cuts to, like, the opening of the episode, then, or the credits, because it's this thing of, we're not sure who that is at first, and we don't know what he's seen, but you kind of guess that he's seen a dead body. He's walked in on something like that. And then it kind of shows you later that he's her son and that, and he did in fact find her in the studio dead. And that there's some criticism of the father, because he seemed to let this happen. And I think the way it sets up, like, the murder and then the fallout with Grace being questioned over various things, and just some of the gossip around town, is that there's different suspects potentially, but the father is certainly one of them. There's question marks over him, because also he's seems to have gone missing as well, so that clearly paints him as a suspect. And at the same time, Hugh Grant's character Jonathan has gone out of town for, like, a convention, and Grace suddenly can't contact him. She's, like, ringing around different numbers, trying different hotels, and she hasn't been able to contact him. She just tries different places where he must have, sort of looked up to potentially stay, and they keep saying, he's not here, and then she actually talks to someone with his name, Jonathan, whatever the surname is, but it's someone else. It's someone with the same name, but it's not her husband. So you wonder if that could be a thing, or if that's just a coincidence that she got through to someone with the same name, which isn't impossible. But that's kind of the end of the episode. Obviously, the mystery over Eleanor, well, yeah, her death, and then obviously what's happened to Jonathan. Where's he gone? So I think it's set up a decent little mystery. You've obviously got a strong cast involved, and it's kind of like middle class porn in a way. I mean, it's very sort of like flashy and pretty looking, and there's some really, as I said, sharp dialogue, and a lot of fun being had. But I think as we get into it, there's also going to be a mystery element, quite a strong mystery element, and probably, hopefully, some character growth like we got with Big Little Lies. But it's going to be a bit of a slow burner, I think. But I did enjoy the first episode. I think there was enough there to make me think, yeah, this could be very watchable. I think obviously Kidman's a great lead. I think she's one of the best actors really around today. Has a very commanding presence, very sort of versatile, very good at playing like maybe awkward or difficult characters. Because it's funny, I mean, there was a time where you sort of think of her playing more icy, sort of twisted type characters. And there's something in this where she has that icy sort of facial expressions and the sort of eyes and the way she like stares very intensely. Because actually, the final shot of the episode is her like, when she's ringing round these numbers to try and contact her husband. It like the final shot is of her eyes like staring quite intensely, and also I think the scene where she's like seeing people in therapy a couple of times, you see her just sort of glazing at them, almost like she's very sort of bemused and gone out, and it's like, who are these people? They're absolutely monsters. So I think to a certain extent you're supposed to like care and engage with her. See there is something quite. She has a very expressive sort of face, a very just a classic sort of actress sort of face, which makes her very watchable and engaging. But I think it's the perfect sort of like actress to lead this kind of drama. Hugh Grant is brilliantly cast as well because he's playing this kind of rich, kind of charming sort of husband who may or may not have skeletons in his closet. It's almost like this mixture between the kind of romantic roles he used to play and maybe something a bit more sort of brittle in a way. So it's a mix between the two. And he has some really funny dialogue in the episode because they've got a son, as I said, and there's a lot of funny like exchanges between them. Like the first scene you see them in as a family, like the son's just like blending something in the kitchen and it's really loud, and Jonathan tells him to turn it down, and the son sort of sarcastically says, it's a blender, there's no volume on a blender, so I can't. And he says, well, that's a poor excuse. And then there's like a funny line where he says something, because the son is trying to talk him into like letting him get a dog, and Jonathan says, well, the problem with that is sort of, if we got a dog, like my throat would sort of close and I would die, sort of thing. And there is actually a reveal later on that he's against the idea of getting a dog just because of what happened. An incident when he was like a kid where the family had a dog, and basically he was looking after it and he let it get out and the dog ended up being run over. So that's actually quite a nice little reveal about something in his past. But there's a lot of funny lines with Jonathan and the boy, like, because the boy plays like he's in, I can't remember which incident, but instrument I should say, but he's in like something at school where he plays an instrument and that he's like studying a particular musician, and uh, it's almost like banter with him and Jonathan, or Jonathan and the son, where he's kind of saying, tell such and such oh yeah, it's a violin, because he says tell such and such he can stick his violin up his ass, basically. um, so it's this kind of where he's playing up to the kind of charming Hugh Grant persona, but there's potentially going to be something a bit seedy and dark about him. It's almost like he's too perfect, because he works for, as I said, he's an ecologist, and yeah, he treats children with like forms of cancer and stuff. So again, he almost seems too perfect. And he's very sarcastic about like some of Grace's friends. But there's some fun therapy scenes, as I said, kind of when Grace is talking to this woman Rebecca, who's going through a marriage thing, and she kind of says, things like, you go through 20 pairs of shoes, basically. You try on 20 pairs of shoes before deciding to leave a house. You're on your third marriage and all that. This sort of thing. There's also a small part for Donald Sutherland in the episode. He plays Grace's father, I think, and he has a really funny line, because near the end of the episode they go to like this auction, and it's this auction to raise like money for the school and what have you, and it's just this ghastly sort of setting, and this kind of very phony sort of liberal type of just sort of backslapping and being quite sort of like just kind of phony and kind of creepy and plastic, because you have the character, the actress out of the West Wing, who plays Donna, who I've not seen in anything for a while. Janelle Mahoney, I want to say her name is, and she's like the one hosting this auction, and yeah, it's almost like this sort of white privilege kind of going, yeah, diversity, rah rah rah. Because at one point she makes a point about, well, we already pay enough. Heaven knows we pay enough already for tuition, but yeah, we've got to raise the money to help the diversity of the school. And it's almost like this kind of patronising sort of tone and statement. But there's a lot of comedy that comes from these sorts of scenes, because Donald Sutherland, his character, at one point says about, how one of the items on show and for sale is like, some guys, I've sort of heard of him, something Ford's like dipsticks, he says. And the line is just really funny, the way he delivers it. It's almost like it sounds like he's swearing with the delivery. But yeah, this sort of scene really sums it up. It's very sort of ghastly, and there's a certain air to it. And Eleanor's at the party, well, at this auction, and that's kind of the last time you see her before she's found dead. And Grace can see that she's upset about something and offers her like a lift home to use their car light. But Grace actually turns her down and says, no, you've been too kind. And that's where they kind of have, or Eleanor kisses Grace in the elevator. But it's this sort of thing where Eleanor leaves, and then the husband, Jonathan, has to go out of town, and it all kind of happens around the same time. But that's pretty much the episode. It was enjoyable. I thought it set up a decent mystery, and we'll have to see how it goes. I mean, as I said, Eleanor was asked questions by the police, and that's one of those scenes where you really see what a good actress Kidman is. Like her reactions to them, kind of almost like putting pressure on her, and I think they ask about how well she knew Ellie, how Ellie could maybe afford to send her son to that school. They then ask, "Do you know where your husband is?" Various things, but just you can see Grace feeling like really pressured, and maybe that she's trying to put on the appearance of helping them and being accommodating, but that maybe she wants to get them out of there as soon as possible. Maybe that she just feels awkward and uncomfortable because of there was something between her and Eleanor, and now Eleanor is dead. But okay, there you have it. That's the episode. That's the first episode of the new HBO series, The Undoing. And if you've seen it, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like and subscribe if you are new to the channel. And it's going to be one episode a week again, like all the HBO shows. And we'll see where it goes. It was certainly a decent start, I thought, so I'm looking forward to seeing more of this series and seeing where it leads with the mystery. But thanks for listening, and I'll see you guys again soon. Goodbye.